I'm gonna give you 5 fat loss hacks that's gonna change the game for you. So if you feel like you've put on a little too much weight because of the holidays or just because of this year in general, then you're definitely in the right spot, because these hacks that you can implement guarantee will start to kickstart your own fat loss and take you into 2021 looking a little less chubby. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is fast. Now, I'm sure you've heard about fasting before. You've probably heard about things like intermittent fasting, which is simply just giving yourself a temporary period of time where you do not eat, and you also have something like a feeding window, something like 16 hours of fasting, 8 hours of eating food, or a window where you're allowed to eat food. Because what we're thinking about doing is trying to induce autophagy. So autophagy is nothing more than when your body just says, hey, I haven't been getting food, so your love handles are looking pretty tasty, right? And it's the idea of self-consumption. That's pretty much what autophagy means. Autophagy just means self-eat or self-consumption, and that's pretty much what it is. I know it sounds pretty weird, but your body already goes through a form of that, just not at the level that autophagy or a 3-day fast can really do. The other nice thing about a 3-day fast is there's some research that shows that it can actually help with cell regeneration. Now, most people can't really last for 3 days doing a fast that long. So if you've never fasted before in your life, then I suggest just starting at like 1 day. Try that out. If you feel like you can get through it, then maybe you can bump it up to 2 days and maybe try up to the maximum of 3 days. The other great thing about fasting is if you've been kind of off track on your own nutrition plan, I mean, heck, if you're fasting for 3 days, do you have any idea how much that's gonna push your calories down for your weekly or even monthly average? It's quite a bit. And it's a great way to just get back on track with things, assuming that you can last that long. Now, a couple tips that I recommend if you are gonna do a fast like this is just drink coffee, drink green tea, and just make sure you drink plenty of water. Now, while hydration is key during a fast, it's also important that you are getting things like electrolytes in. So I would still suggest making sure that you're getting in electrolytes. You can add like a little pinch of salt to your water. It's not gonna kick you out of your fast at all, but most people are gonna start suffering from general fatigue and depression during fast if they're not getting basics like electrolytes, etc. Now, the second thing that you can do, which once again, it's not things that people really think about, is do whatever you can to increase the production of heat shock proteins. Now, sure, you haven't really heard of this term before, but heat shock proteins are pretty much proteins that are produced when the body is under tremendous amounts of stress. And this is stress that is usually induced by heat exposure, cold exposure, or just when the body has to repair damaged muscle tissue. So when you train, and you train hard, and you damage your muscle tissues, you are increasing the production of heat shock proteins. But what we're gonna be doing for this hack is a combination of 2 things, or even 3 things if you have access to them. One is for the cold exposure, we're gonna be looking at doing something like an ice bath or just taking cold showers. Now, the great thing about cold showers or cold exposure in general is that it helps your body to adapt better to stress long term, which is something known as body tempering. And the whole idea behind this, whether it's cold exposure or heat exposure, is that you're just putting your body in a stressful situation and it has to learn to adapt. So you could do one of 2 things. I like saunas for heat exposure, and I like ice baths for cold exposure. Now, if you don't have the luxury of having a spa on hand, I don't even know if spas are open anymore, you can just do contrast showers at home, right? So turn the water on really hot in the shower, and then just, do a little prayer, and then just bam, shut it, turn it all the way down to ice cold, right? And you'll be doing contrast showers, or you can do contrast baths. If you have access to a pool and a jacuzzi, you can just jump back and forth. 1 minute in one, and then 1 minute in the other. Something like this is really good, and you'd be surprised with what it could do, not only for recovery, but just also increasing heat shock protein production, which will benefit you to a little degree in terms of how much you're burning per day. Now, it's even more effective if you're pairing it with something known as sprint training. I don't know if you've ever heard of sprints before, but if you do them correctly, guarantee you that HSP production is going to skyrocket. So the way that I suggest doing this is not just your typical Metcon work or anything, but to really try to go all out. And when I mean all out, I mean like everything you got. Like you are running for your dear life. Now, if you're not in physical condition to do sprints, then what you can do is you can do sprints on like a stationary bike or something like that. If, let's say, you can't be doing sprints uphill or on concrete or whatever. if your knees don't allow for it, or if you're just not in the right shape for it, then I highly suggest just using a stationary bike and just going all out, trying to push your heart rate to the absolute maximum, trying to reach that lactic acid threshold where you're just, your legs just seize up. I mean, when you're done with a few bouts of sprints, it should feel like your legs have just been filled with hot cement. Now, I don't know how to really explain it, but if you've ever experienced it before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, the other thing that you can do, which I really like, and yes, it's a great hack that you can do, is just do anything that can lower cortisol. So cortisol is pretty much our stress hormone. It's something that most people have it in very high levels these days. And there's quite a few things that you can do to bring it down. One of my favorite things is using adaptogens. Adaptogenic herbs are very popular, such as ashwagandha, which is my go-to. And simply 600 milligrams a day is pretty effective in terms of reducing overall levels of stress. But there's other things that you can do. So while this is like my third hack in terms of losing fat, there's a lot of different methods that you can use to kind of drive stress down. So one of them is bringing in adaptogens, like ashwagandha, for example. Another thing that you can do is meditate. 10 minutes a day, you'd be really surprised with how effective it is in terms of just reducing overall stress levels. And then the last thing you can do, if we're gonna be on the topic of stress, I think you'd be really surprised with how powerful anti-inflammatories are, such as turmeric. So turmeric's another supplement that you can take that has not only like anti-catabolic effects, but also anti-inflammatory, and it can also lower cortisol as well. So it has quite a bit of effects in terms of just reducing overall levels of stress, reducing overall levels of systemic inflammation as well. And that's all going to contribute towards helping you increase the total amount of fat that you burn, decrease bloating, decrease water retention. And so I would highly suggest implementing one of those three, if not all three of them. Now, the next hack that I like to use, and I give this to everyone. I mean, I do it myself. I've been doing it for 10 years. You want to know what it is? Be overly caffeinated. Yeah, drink coffee. Drink more coffee. Probably sounds a little weird because most people are probably thinking, oh, I'm trying to quit coffee. I don't want to drink coffee. But coffee's not bad. I think people really think that coffee is worse than it actually is because they think, okay, well, caffeine is not that good for you. It disrupts sleep, etc. But here's the thing. Caffeine is only an issue if you're drinking it late in the night where it's actually interfering with your sleep. And caffeine is not an issue if you're just being smart and understanding the total half-life. And what I mean by the half-life is how long is it going to stay in your system before it's gone? And caffeine, with what most evidence says, is somewhere between 8 to 10 hours. So as long as you're cutting out all caffeine consumption 8 to 10 hours before you try going to sleep, there's nothing really wrong with that. So as a general rule of thumb, I mean, if you're cutting off all coffee consumption by around 2 or 3 p.m., for the most part, you're in the safe zone. Assuming that you're going to bed, 8 to 10 hours from there, which hopefully you are. Now, the other thing that comes with coffee is it's an appetite suppressant. And when it comes to losing fat and thinking about like, how are these hacks, if you can find anything that is a powerful appetite suppressant, you're just going to be losing more fat overall because you're not going to be binging on foods that are going to be increasing fat. So it kind of works in an indirect way in a sense, because let's say, for example, on any given week, you find yourself snacking 2 to 3 times per day. These are just little tiny things here and there, some holiday cookies here and there, maybe a piece of candy, a piece of bread, or just an extra serving of carbohydrates at every meal, right? Or dinner, whatever it may be, right? So if you were to look at that average and you were to total up all those calories because of those cravings and the appetite that you can't control, maybe on average from cravings alone, you're looking at 600 to 1200 calories per day just through cravings. So if you can find something that can control your appetite where you're just not getting those urges to binge or whatever it may be, guess how many calories that's saving you per week? And so this is why it's such a great hack that if you try to keep coffee regularly into your nutrition plan or just into your morning routine, it's going to be suppressing your appetite overall, and that's going to overall lead to increased fat loss results. Now, let's say, for example, you don't drink coffee, you don't like coffee, or the only way you can have coffee is if you put a bunch of creamer into it. I highly suggest green tea, because the other thing with green tea is green tea has high levels of catechins in them. And catechins are going to be very effective, not only like suppressing appetite, but also increasing metabolism and increasing how much fat you burn. So if coffee's off the table, make yourself some green tea. The last thing that I suggest is walk more. Now, I made a couple videos about walking already, and I'll continue making videos about walking because people just, it's so underutilized. It's like the easiest form of activity that you can do. I mean, even if you are like obese or extremely overweight, or you have type 2 diabetes, whatever your metabolic conditions are, or whatever limitations you have that maybe prevent you from lifting weights and going to the gym or running, you can walk. Almost everyone can walk. Heck, even if you're on crutches, you can still move, right? Man, it's not going to be, as easy, but you can still get out there and you can move. And the whole idea is the more you walk, the more calories you're burning. And you're burning calories specifically from fat, because walking is not intense enough for your body to be requiring carbohydrates as a fuel source. And so your body's going to be going through something known as beta oxidation, which is pretty much when your body is just looking at the fat cells on your body and saying, hey, they're doing activity is not intense enough, but we need energy, so let's go burn those love handles. And if you're wondering, okay, well, how long, how much should I walk, how many steps per day, go ahead and check out that video right there. It kind of goes into the entire topic in terms of walking for fat loss, what it looks like, and how you can just start implementing it into your normal routine to start benefiting from all the results. So look, guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and let me know, which one are you gonna start using? Hopefully you use all 5 in combination, paired with training and cleaning up your nutrition in general. I mean, obviously that would lead to the greatest results, but just let me know, which ones have you tried or which ones are you going to try? And let me know in the comments below. And if you guys like this type of stuff, you're gonna be surprised because I got a little gift for you. So I know it's kind of like the holiday season and everything, so I have a little gift, and it's going to be a free ebook on just 8 weeks to kickstarting your own fat loss. And pretty much the whole idea is new year, new you, right? 2020 has defeated quite a few people, and 2021 is right around the corner. So if you want 2021 to be your best year in terms of not only looking your best, but also just in terms of feeling your best, you're definitely gonna wanna get this ebook when it drops. And so the way you can find it is by being subscribed, because I'm gonna leave a link in the description of one of my next videos. So definitely hit that subscribe button and turn bell notifications on so you never miss when a video drops. So as you guys can see, got a new studio set up. The channel is gonna go through quite a few changes as production quality continues to go up. And the most important thing is that content will be put out on a regular basis finally. I finally have stuff set up in a way where pretty much I can just go 100% into YouTube, which is a really nice thing for me because I miss making content. I didn't have the time available to make content consistently before just because of work and with clients and stuff like that. But now I'm in a position that's a lot better where I can just kind of relax, make content, put out really good stuff for your enjoyment and for your benefit to make sure that you're in the best shape of your life. So as always, guys, stay strong, and I'll see you next time.